Welcome on into the Utah Blockcast. I'm Steve Bartle, Utah Insider for KSL Sports. Good to be with you on a Thursday. An interesting Thursday because normally we do our live stream to preview the game, but there's going to be a Utah men's basketball game tonight against Cal Poly at the John M. Huntsman Center. The sixth and final game of their six-game homestand to start the season. So looking forward to that. Obviously, Utah under Alex Jensen have started 5-0, but certainly plenty of room for improvement on both ends of the floor. So looking forward to being at the John M. Huntsman Center tonight to take in the running Utes. And if you're there, come say what's up. Always enjoy meeting everybody, saying hi to people, and interacting with the folks up there. So looking forward to that tonight. And since I'll be there watching the game, we won't be doing our live stream. We'll actually be doing that Friday night. We'll be doing our live stream, Bennett and I, Friday night, and then we'll also be doing a Twitter Spaces afterwards. So look forward to that tomorrow night to preview Utah versus Kansas State, which is going down this Saturday, 2 p.m. kick at Rice-Eccles Stadium. Looking forward to this game. Obviously, Utah has it rolling on the ground. Devin Dampier, Bird Ficklin, Wayshawn Parker, they've got it going on the ground behind this offensive line, just doing a really impressive job. So looking forward to this matchup because K-State, it's been an interesting year for K-State. They came in with, fairly high expectations of competing and contending in the Big 12, but got off to a pretty rough start, and things have just kind of snowballed from there. So on this episode, actually, I welcome on Mitch Fortner, who he's there in Manhattan, Kansas, KMAN Radio. He's the host of Powercat Pregame, which is the pregame show for the Kansas State Wildcats. So I did an interview with him yesterday, and he had enough time and was cool enough to hop on with me to return the favor. So Mitch is great. Offered a lot of great insights about the Wildcats, where things stand based on the expectations coming into the season, the vibe around the program, and what to expect from the Wildcats this Saturday. So Mitch is great, and that is the meat and potatoes of this episode. But first, before we dive into all of that, I want to do a little recruiting update. Obviously, I'm recording this November 20th, which means the early signing period is just a couple weeks away. So this is we're getting to that silly season on the recruiting trail, and this weekend Utah is actually going to be welcoming a pretty good group of visitors, both officially and unofficially, and I'll have that list for you guys as well. But yesterday, 24/7 Sports updated their top 247 rating, top 247 ranking. I used to work for 24/7 Sports. I don't know why I say 247. I hated when people would say that, but now I catch myself saying it all the time, and I hate it. Anyways, positive updates for a number of Utah guys. Headlined by Kelvin Obot, Mataalii Benjamin, Jaron Kennan Pula, all 4-star prospects now. So let's take a look at their recruiting profile right now. I want to pull this up here. All right. Kelvin Obot's recruiting profile at 24/7 Sports. You see he now rated a 97, 4-star prospect, ranks number 34 overall in the nation, the number 6 offensive tackle in the country. His composite, which incorporates both Rivals and ESPN rankings. He has a 5-star composite ranking and is actually the highest rated prospect that Utah has landed in program history. He has supplanted Clark Phillips as the top rated prospect in Utah's history. So really impressive stuff there. Kelvin Obot ranking number 27 in the country, number 4 at offensive tackle in the composite as well. So really impressive stuff. And, this isn't just, I think, questions about Obot and his game, I think were fair prior to this season. But after watching his senior film, I have to say, he's legitimately good. I remember watching Spencer Fano and Caleb Lomu back in 2023 when they went to camps and they did the UA circuit. I went to a couple Under Armour camps and got to watch Spencer Fano operate quite a bit. He was the most technically sound lineman that I've ever watched. I've been fortunate enough to get out to a number of camps to see a lot of good linemen that have ended up at Utah, that have ended up at USC, Oregon. Jackson Powers Johnson was arguably the most physically imposing lineman that I've ever watched up close. He was just on another level. But with Obot, what's interesting watching his film, you see how explosive he is, you see how powerful he is. But he's done a lot. You go back to his junior film and you compare it to how he looks as a senior. He's made a lot of progress in terms of his fundamentals, his technique. And I think that is a credit to Jordan Gross, his head coach there at Fruitland High School in Idaho. And Obot, Kelvin has done a lot of good work to really improve and make the sort of leap that he needed to validate this ranking. So he's coming in, I think, very well prepared to take over a starting job and follow in the footsteps of a Spencer Fano, somebody that can come in early and play right away as a true freshman and maintain a really good level of play even in his first year with the program. So I think Obot is a player that I think will make an instant impact at Utah. And go ahead, watch his film. It's really impressive stuff. Again, his mobility, his athleticism, his power, but he's done a really fantastic job of improving his technique, his fundamentals. Still a lot of work to do, as he comes to the next level, but I think the best tape of the three, of Obot, Fano, and Lomu, I think Obot's tape is the best combination of all of those factors. I think Utah fans should be really excited about what Utah has in Kelvin Obot. Right now, the number 2 rated player in Utah's 2026 class, Mataalii Benjamin out of Lehigh. He got a huge bump. He was an 88 rated 3-star. He is now a 92 rated 4-star prospect. He's the number 21 offensive tackle in the country, number 197 overall, regardless of position, according to 24/7 Sports. He's now a composite 4-star. And really, what I see in Mataalii is very similar to what I saw in Caleb Lomu. Big body, big frame, good athlete, good flexibility. There's a lot of really exciting qualities to work with here with Benjamin. And when you consider what Utah has done with similar prospects like Lomu, like guys of the past, Bamadeli, Olaseni, guys of this stature, Darren Paulo, it's taken time, but Benjamin has the sort of qualities where it may not be year one right away, but I think he's the type of kid that can step into a starting role in year 2, in year 3, much like Lomu. So I think Benjamin is a fantastic pickup, and he's made great improvements as well, not only in terms of his fundamentals and what he's doing, but just his overall mobility, his strength. I still think he needs to get stronger, and I think that's going to be what all next year is going to be about for him. Is acclimating to the physicality of the collegiate level, but there are a lot of really exciting qualities to work with here for Utah. So this is a big pickup. Benjamin has had a great senior season with Lehigh, or had a great season with Lehigh, and he is definitely worth that 4-star rating. So got a big bump, and I think he's going to be a key piece to Utah's offensive line, for the future of the offensive line. All right, next prospect, Jaron Pula, got a little bump. He went from a 90 rated 4-star to a 91 rated 4-star, and now checks in the top 247. He ranks 227 in the country. He's the number 30 overall receiver in the country. He's a composite 4-star as well. And Jaron, he's the type of receiver that Utah needs in that receiver room. So Micah Simon getting both Jaron and Kennan Pula committed and keeping their commitments throughout this whole process, I think, has been one of the most impressive jobs, on the recruiting trail for Utah this season. And so the other big update here is Kennan Pula. He got an update. Finally got his 4th star. I think something that many people wanted to see him get a long time ago, but he is now a 4-star prospect as well. The number 23 athlete in the 2026 class. Has the potential to play safety, and if you saw the viral clip over the weekend of his interception, you understand why that is. Just a tremendous play, and he's going to get some looks at wide receiver, but I wouldn't be surprised when it's all said and done that if he doesn't end up at safety on the defense side of the ball. But certainly a very talented pass catcher as well. So again, Utah's known that they're going to have to play a lot of defense to keep these guys locked in, and they've done so far and feel really good as we hit the home stretch. But this is when things really heat up, and keeping these guys locked in is going to be really important for Utah because these guys can come in next year and make a positive impact, in my opinion. So those were the positive updates for Utah. In the 24/7 Sports and their recruiting rankings, a lot of good stuff there for Utah. It helped their class ranking a little bit. And I think what we'll see in the next couple of months, 24/7 Sports, they typically do, they break it up into sections, the top 247, and then the rest of the class. I think we'll see some other guys, throughout the rest of Utah's class get some reevaluations, get some bumps, if you will, and I think we'll really see this class round out. So that's what I've got there. Now, in terms of what Utah's doing, welcoming in visitors this weekend, it's a pretty impressive group of visitors, both officially and unofficially. Here is the list of visitors for Utah this weekend. Like I said, an impressive group of official visits and unofficial visits. Utah bringing in Mataalii Benjamin for his official. PJ Takitaki, also of Lehigh, edge rusher, also just got a little rating bump up to an 89 rated 3-star. I think Utah's looking really good for Takitaki. So we'll see what happens there. And then a couple of other guys, Kirtland Vakalahi, a JUCO defensive end who's had a really productive year at that level. I think Utah's in a good spot with him. Nathaniel Salmon, he is the tight end that had an opportunity with the Los Angeles Chargers through the International Pathway Program in the NFL. He's taken a number of visits, and with this being his last visit, you got to feel good about Utah's potential to land him, especially given what they did with Caleb Lohner and what sort of message that can send to Salmon, who's sort of in the same sort of boat as Lohner, kind of learning the game for the first time. I think that could be really interesting as well. And then Tayson Reed, a JUCO linebacker out of Snow College, he's had a fantastic season, really dynamic at that spot. He is related to the Reed and Fano family. He is part of that family tree. So there is that to consider. And then Utah's bringing in a couple of mystery visitors as well. But then you look at the unofficial visitors. Kelvin Obot, LeGarry Mitchell, Bear Fisher, 3 commits in this class, going to be up there visiting unofficially with Utah. And then you see some of the future prospects coming in. Gage Weddle, going to be at Utah yet again. Titan DeJong going to be up there. Calvin Moala, an offensive lineman out of Southern Cal. Ian Alioso out of Timpview. Kingston Parks, Money Parks' younger brother. And then Dennis Tuaone, a wide receiver out of Timpview as well, a 4-star prospect there. So more expected to come. I wouldn't be surprised to see a few more in-state prospects added to that list. But that's a good list of visitors to welcome in to Rice-Eccles Stadium this weekend against Kansas State. I think Utah has a really good shot to add a couple of commitments here and really help their class. What's going to be interesting, though, is getting into the early signing period. I don't anticipate a lot of major fireworks, but Utah's always good for a surprise or two. So I wouldn't rule it out by any means. But I think what is interesting when you look at the makeup of the roster going into 2026, this is a young core. There's a lot of young players on this roster. I think that's going to impact, Utah and how they sort of build this team out going into next year. I think the transfer portal is going to be a bigger priority than trying to add other high school prospects to the mix. So I think that's going to be interesting to see. And again, like we've talked about all week, is the transfer portal window is now shifted from December to January. So I think that's going to be great for programs like Utah who can finalize their signing classes in the month of December, have some of those conversations about players that maybe want to or are thinking about entering the portal, having those conversations, and then getting into that next month in January with a much clearer idea of what you need to build out the roster and attack the transfer portal in that sense. So yeah, big visit weekend for Utah this week. And like I said, I think there's a really good opportunity for Utah to add a couple of commitments to their commit list this cycle. So, all right. That's enough recruiting talk. You can unmute me now if you don't want to listen to recruiting. Let me get to my interview here with Mitch Fortner, again, of KMAN Radio there in Kansas. He is the host of Powercat Game Day Pregame Show, if I remember right. If I remember, that's what it's called. Anyways, here's my conversation with Mitch. All right. Joining me now, Mitch Fortner, host of Powercat Game Day, the pregame show for Kansas State. Mitch, I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to hop on with me on the Utah Blockcast. Appreciate the time, man. Thanks so much.
Steve, I appreciate it. Love talking Big 12 football, and it's good to be on with you.
Yeah, man, this is going to be an exciting one. The first time Utah and Kansas State have ever matched up. I'd be curious just to get your feel for what the vibe is like in Manhattan among the Kansas State fan base with the opportunity to potentially travel out to Salt Lake City this weekend.
Well, I think the opportunity to travel to Salt Lake is pretty sweet. Right now, the vibe with the team, it's not great. This has been a disappointing season. K-State's 5-5 right now. K-State's only played, I believe, in Salt Lake City. Well, they've never played at Utah, right? But they played last year at BYU in Lavelle Edwards Stadium. That was, just an insane atmosphere. And I think we all expect Rice Eccles to be nothing short of amazing as well, especially with Utah, what they're playing for a spot in the college football playoff. They're playing for a lot more than K-State is. If anything, for the Wildcats, which we do travel quite well, this is probably just more of an experience opportunity, maybe to check something off the bucket list to see Rice Eccles Stadium, which is fairly new to the Big 12.
Yeah, and the great thing here is, Utah fans super welcoming when it comes to visiting fans and that. So really looking forward to interacting with some of the K-State fans that make the trip out. Should be a lot of fun. And in Utah, like I said, the fan base here tend to be really good hosts. So let's talk about the game here. But before we do, I want to get a feel for Kansas State, because you kind of talked about it, right? 5-5 on the season, fighting for bowl eligibility. Given what the expectations were coming into the season, what's been sort of the biggest culprit for Kansas State and where they're at right now?
Yeah, it's a great question, because it's kind of a lot that adds up to that. Yeah. I mean, it is the most. I call it it's one of the two most disappointing seasons in program history. The other would be 2004, following up winning a Big 12 title, the first for Bill Snyder. We still have Darren Sproles, and we only win 4 games that year. It starts in Ireland. The first time K-State touches the football, other than the opening kickoff, is a muff punt by Dylan Edwards, who then proceeds to leave the field, kick a bench, get hurt, and we don't have one of our best players for a considerable amount of time, like through basically the whole non-conference. Even before that, transfer lineman comes in. George Fitzpatrick out of Ohio State wins a national championship, and he's supposed to be the starting left tackle. Like, this guy came in and was a no-doubter starter and probably the best offensive lineman. He hasn't played, and he will not play this whole season because he had a medical episode during the summer months. Yeah. Never exactly heard what happened, but it sounded like it was heat-related, and he just never got healthy enough to play football for K-State. It's the addition of a new offensive coordinator. He's actually been here now for 2 years, in Matt Wells. fans are very critical about him. They're not a fan of Matt Wells from the play call, like situational play calling, just doesn't have a feel for the game. He has had some great moments and does have some great play designs, but things can kind of snowball on him in some rough situations. So I think I'm just honestly scratching the surface on where this season has gone. The offense just hasn't had the groove it should have had, and honestly, it starts with the offensive line. It has been very inconsistent and not good in the running game.
So with that, as sort of the backdrop, what would you consider the identity of this team? Like, what are the things that Kansas State has done well up to this point? Because again, 5-5, you're doing some good things. You've been in some tight games. What are the things that you feel Kansas State you can hang your hat on?
Well, I think offensively they've been hot and cold. I think where they're hanging their hat is on the defense, and what they've done extremely well this year is forcing turnovers. They're right now fourth in the country in forcing turnovers at 24 this year. The 12 fumble recoveries is second in the country. If it wasn't for the Texas Tech game where the offense coughed it up 5 times, K-State would lead the country in turnover margin, which right now it's at plus 10. Wow. And through the last 4 years under Kleiman, K-State has had at least 20 turnovers in a season, and this is the most they've had since 2022, which was the last time K-State won the Big 12. Forcing turnovers has been phenomenal for K-State. The defensive line has been off and on, good. They've never really been bad, but I don't know if you've heard, but about 2 or 3 weeks ago, K-State lost its best pass rusher in Tobi Osinsami. K-State's still doing a pretty solid job at pass rushing, and I thought that was the number one thing that K-State would be really good at heading into this year. That has actually come fairly true. They're doing a good job of getting in the backfield. They've been okay against the run. At times they've been gashed. That's been kind of off and on, but getting after the quarterback, that could be something, even though K-State doesn't have their best pass rusher. 2 strip sacks last week against Oklahoma State. So I know Joe Klanderman, who's K-State's defensive coordinator, is not going to be afraid to bring the house and bring some pressure against Utah.
That could be an interesting dynamic given Utah's own quarterback situation with Devin Dampier not being, 100%. It certainly limited some of his explosiveness and ability to evade pressure. So that will certainly be interesting to monitor once we get to Saturday. With Kansas State, Avery Johnson, many considered him one of the most talented quarterbacks over the last couple seasons. I had him. I did a little Big 12 preseason ranking of the quarterbacks. I think I had him 3rd or 4th, just kind of given, what we saw in year 1 as a starter and sort of expecting another leap. How would you assess what Avery Johnson has done so far this season?
I think he's been really good. I really do. The issues with the offense are not his fault. He's not always the most accurate passer. But against Oklahoma State, we just lost our best wide receiver for the rest of the season. Jace Brown is out. He's had 712 yards. He's our best receiver since Tyler Lockett, and that was, that's been over 10 years.
That's a long time ago. Yeah, he's been in the NFL a while.
Yes, he has. He's now with the Raiders.
Yeah.
But Avery's one of the fastest players on the team. He is deadly with his legs if he can get out in space. Just some of the opportunities for him to run the football haven't been the best when it comes to drawing them up or best opportunities, playing against the numbers, Avery passing the football, 60.5%, his numbers are better. I mean, he is about to become K-State's all-time leader in passing touchdowns. He's only a couple away from that.
Wow.
And I think he has Dampier type of numbers when it comes to touchdowns and interceptions with 17-5. What he's really been doing well this year compared to last year, he is taking care of the football a little bit more. He did have some passes in the non-conference that were dangerous, but the offense was so bad at Arizona that Avery just had to take some chances, and then a couple of interceptions at times against Texas Tech where he was just trying to make a play. He was forced to just throw a couple that trying to make a play to make a game out of it. So really most of these interceptions I don't think have really been his fault. Maybe a couple of them have, but I think Avery's leadership has really grown. It's been unfortunate that the offensive line hasn't been better for him in the running game, and even his tight ends. I got to mention this as well because last year he threw 13 touchdowns to tight ends to lead the country. This year he does have 6. He's been going to one more than most. That's Garrett Oakley. But K-State's pass catchers have dropped 19 passes this year.
Ooh,
Garrett
yeah.
Oakley has dropped 6, and he's a tight end that leads the country for tight ends and drop passes. So the guys around him and some of the coaching just haven't done enough favors for Avery Johnson.
So you mentioned Jace Brown, losing him to injury. Where does Johnson go to? Like, who can he turn to as sort of that dependable go-to receiver? Who is the guy that has the best case at being capable of handling that sort of role?
I will say, even though there have been some drops, I don't think the wide receivers have really been a disappointment at all. I think they've been what we expected. One, though, little issue there is J.D. Bradley or Jaron Bradley, you'll see on the roster. He's a former Texas Tech wide receiver. Yeah. He's going to be back. He was K-State's number 3 wide receiver, still is technically, even though Jace Brown he's out, so I guess he moves up to number 2. But he'll be back for this game. Dron Tibbs has been one to really go up in tough situations and go make a catch, go make a play. He can go high point the football, bring it down in a crowd, and get you a big play. Wide receivers has been a good area. Now K-State does try to throw to the running back a little bit. Joe Jackson would mostly be that guy. The thing is, it's like the rotation at running back. It's kind of hard to tell who's going to be in on any particular play. That's been a real mixed bag with Matt Wells in particular lineups. Now I will say there's one player in the tight ends, because Garrett Oakley is going to get a lot of targets. He's K-State's best tight end. He has 356 yards this year and 5 touchdowns. He's going to be a big-time target against Utah. One player that I talked about on my show this week, his name is Lincoln Cure. He's a 5-star that came in. He's a freshman, but he didn't do spring ball because he was setting new track and field records in the hurdles, and then he comes in the fall and gets hurt. So he barely practiced. So it's been a slow climb for him to get more of an opportunity. But I mean, he's a 5-star. I mean, I'm thinking at this point, just let the kid loose and let him go make you some plays. He's tall. He's super athletic. He's one of the fastest on the team. Like, if you were in an emergency situation, you needed a quarterback, he could be your guy. If you needed a kick returner, he could be your guy. He's that good. So I want K-State to give him a shot today against Utah to go make some plays.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think a lot of Utah fans were certainly aware of Lincoln Cure, just his 5-star, given the 5-star status, and a lot of Utah fans like to follow recruiting and were well aware of what he was as a recruit, and it's been surprising to not see the production, but given the context there, certainly understandable. Curious about Kansas State's run game. That was kind of the calling card, it seemed like, for Chris Kleiman, for a couple of seasons, was the run game and how dependable it was and how formidable it was. This year it's been a bit of a struggle, and you mentioned Dylan Edwards, getting injured and just being out for the season. How would you kind of assess what's going on with the run game?
Yeah, not having Dylan Edwards really hurts, because he could make up for. I mean, if you look up his numbers against UCF, he's still playing against the same or behind the same offensive line. Yeah, he made the offensive line look good. He really did. He's that electric. He can make anybody look good. But we've barely had him this year. So now the backup has been Joe Jackson. 476 yards this year. He's ran for a couple of touchdowns, just 4 yards per carry. If you look at the yards per carry numbers, it's not great. I mean, last year K-State set a new record at 6.2. Now it's 2 yards less than that. Joe has had a lot of bumps in the road. He's trying to become better. He just doesn't have, right now at least, he just doesn't have the talent to be the number one running back. But he is. He just has to be the number one running back. He runs hard. He's just not breaking tackles. His vision needs some work. His cutbacks are getting a lot better. The tools are getting a lot better, but there's still a lot of sharpening to be done. And then behind him, it's like I mentioned earlier, like I'm not quite sure who's going to play behind him, because it's got a number of guys. Antonio Martin is just more of a, I'm just going to run straight at you, tackle me. Devon Rice is really quick. He's small. And then K-State has brought out a backup quarterback to try to run the football, and it's not fooling anybody anymore. They have like Avery Johnson as the running back. Well, obviously the ball's not going to go to Avery. It's not going to be a running back and try to run a gap on you. That's not what's going to happen. So it's not fooling anybody. That's Blake Barnett who would come in that backup role. So I think there's no doubt to me K-State's going to have to throw the football to go win this game. They got to go pick up some big chunks through the running game. Joe Jackson right now, his longest run this year, he's ran the ball 119 times. It's just 21 yards. He's not really, he hasn't been a big play guy for K-State.
Gotcha. Well, before we transition to defense, I want to ask you something kind of unique. And, Utah right now currently going through a bit of a 2 QB system with Devin Dampier and Bird Ficklin. And, K-State, it wasn't too long ago, you were in a similar situation with Will Howard and Avery Johnson. What do you remember of that whole situation? And, given what Will Howard was able to accomplish, what's sort of the feelings there about the decision, about Will Howard, about all of that?
Well, I remember Will, he was real chill about everything. Like, he couldn't have been a better teammate. Avery comes in against Texas Tech. He runs for 5 touchdowns. And Will was having his struggles. I mean, that's absolutely a fact. People say Will Howard was forced out. Maybe in a way. But it was also a lot easier to make that decision when Ohio State couldn't wait to talk to the kid to come play quarterback. What happened for Will Howard is he simply just got a whole lot, he got a lot more talent around him. But for, a chunk of that time, Avery Johnson was playing better. I mean, that is just a fact. Will, though, I can't remember if it was against Houston or TCU, that season in 2023 that they were splitting possessions. They were going back and forth, and I wasn't exactly the biggest fan of that, but K-State's offense at that time needed a spark, and Avery was that spark. Will then got a lot better. His accuracy, his leadership was a lot better. And so seeing him leave, it just kind of saw it coming because Avery Johnson was one of the best recruits K-State had ever had in history. He was higher ranked than Will Howard. He's coming in as more of a pedigree, more talented. And honestly, I think you can argue actually that Avery Johnson, still to this day, is a more talented quarterback. Just doesn't have the Ohio State, type of talent around him that Will Howard had, to win the national championship.
Gotcha. So I feel like, you're saying things, describing things, and you can literally cut and paste Devin Dampier or Bird Ficklin into, those two situations, and it would be, eerily similar. So going to be fascinating to see what happens with Utah and those two quarterbacks this offseason. But for now, those two will probably see playing time against Kansas State. So talking about that K-State defense, how do you feel the Wildcats, how effective do you feel like the Wildcats have been able to stop the run? Because that is obviously Utah's calling card this season is the run game. How confident, what sort of confidence level do you have in this defense to do that, to at least limit it?
Well, my confidence is, I'm keeping an open mind, I guess, because they have done some great things. They've, like I mentioned earlier, they have forced 12 turnovers this year by getting the football out. But it's been hot and cold. I mean, K-State at times have been just absolute gashed, and sometimes they look really good stopping the run, but it's not consistent. Do not expect K-State to be consistently good against the run. I just don't think that's going to happen. And a big reason is because, as I mentioned earlier, K-State does now not have its best running back. It doesn't have its best wide receiver. And guess what? K-State now doesn't have their best linebacker. Austin Romaine, who's a future NFL draft pick, he's out for the season. He was wearing a club on his hand against Texas Tech and somehow got an interception with that club covering one hand. I think he hurt it in the KU game is when that happened. He was hurt. He was really hurt and playing with a lot of pain. But they needed to get a procedure. They shut him down, and we'll see if he returns or he decides to go to the NFL. But he is also – he entered the season as probably a top 10 linebacker in the country in stopping the run. And now he's no longer in the lineup. And of course, it starts with K-State's defensive line. And I think where things got shaken up a little bit is they switched from a 3-3 to a 4-2-5. So the linebacker's a little bit more on an island. And Austin Romaine was kind of playing. He was trying to play two positions at once and would overplay what he should be doing and then give up a big play. It wasn't always his fault, though. The D-line has been really good this year, but they've even had some inconsistencies against the run. But they're an average running defense this year. I thought they would be better this year. Last year was really good, really good.
Yeah.
It just hasn't been as solid, but it's not bad. But Utah has just got so many great runners. That's going to be a really tough task, I think, for K-State to be consistent against Utah.
Get you out of here with this last one. Just what do you feel is going to be kind of the X factor for Kansas State in terms of their potential to sneak out a win against Utah in Rice-Eccles Stadium?
So 2 things. One, offensively, they have to string together drives. Their home run hitter is gone. Jace Brown, I mean, it was every game. Avery's taking 2 or 3 shots, bombs down the field, was very successful doing that. I mean, the most of the yards for Jace this year were on huge plays, and now that's gone. K-State has to throw the football. They'll try to establish the run game. I got a feeling that Utah will sell out on that, make K-State throw it, and then, we'll see, because I was looking at the numbers. It looks like Utah's pass defense is pretty good. It's pretty good, yardage-wise. Defensively, can K-State force turnovers? That has been one of the reasons why K-State has had opportunities to win games. So many times this year, with the exception of Army, which was just so fluky, and that game sucked. Defense couldn't get off the field. The offense had the ball for like 4 minutes in the second half. That was a disaster. But outside of that, the defense has done such a good job, despite injuries, of giving the offense chances to win the game. And they've done that by forcing turnovers. K-State has forced double-digit turnovers now in 7 straight games. That is the longest stretch in the country right now. So that is the biggest key. Can K-State force turnovers to give the offense a shot?
Mitch, great stuff. Really appreciate your time again. Looking forward to you getting out here and enjoying Salt Lake City. And again, great stuff tonight. I really appreciate the time, Mitch.
Looking forward to it. I hope for a good game at the very least. Thank you so much.